Hi, I'm BJ, and this is the Arcane Alienist Podcast.
Hey BJ, it's Anthony calling in from the car. It's daytime, but it's pretty much as dark as night, and I don't know if you can hear the rain on the windshield, but we're at the end of the rainy season. The sky has opened up, and it's letting us know something. I just wanted to say that your recent episode was beautiful, and thank you very much for sharing. It means a lot.
And as always, that was Anthony of the Casting Shadows podcast, also known as Rude Slinger, calling all the way from South Korea. Thanks for the call, Anthony. I'm glad you appreciated the episode, and maybe you'll enjoy this one as well. But before we get into today's topics, we've got a few calls from Jason Connerly as well. So let's hear what Jason has to say.
Hey BJ, Jason here. It is hardcore mode you're thinking of, that 13 for a single number you save against. In ICRPG, there's a number for each scene, and that number for the scene is the number you're rolling against across the board. Now ICRPG has the advantage disadvantage thing, but instead of rolling multiple dice, you just have easy and hard rolls where you have that scene target number, and if it's a hard roll, then you add 3 to the scene target number. So if normally it's 12, you need 15 if it's hard. If it's easy, then you subtract 3. So if normally it's 12, you roll 9 if it's easy. And that's how ICRPG handles that. I think 5e, of course, advantage disadvantage predates 5e. Other games used it before 5e ever came out. But 5e definitely popularized it in the, people's minds. I think where 5e screwed up is they didn't embrace it and just use that. They also have +1s and -1s and +2s. So where 5e could have just embraced advantage, disadvantage, they also have all the modifiers in addition to that. So they kind of stepped back from the precipice and, gave in to pressure, which is a shame. I think they should have been more daring. But I guess after 4e, they're worried about being too daring because, the gaming purchasing public are pretty fickle folks. Okay, let me listen to the rest of your prompts.
Thanks for correcting me, Jason. And I think just as a follow-up, as that prompt was talking about really cool mechanics, I do think that the really cool mechanic from ICRPG that simplifies things is the room itself has 1 DC, whether you're trying to attack the monster, save against some its breath or some spell that it's cast at you, or trying to overcome a trap or a hazard. The room just has a difficulty, and anything you do to try to succeed in that room has that one number, and then you can roll easy or hard, based on the situation. That is a pretty innovative thing that Hankrin came up with for ICRPG. I also, I think with 5th edition, I think you're right. When I went through the play test, I was like, wow, this is really cool that they've incorporated this. And then when we got the final product, it seemed to not be as prominent and front and center as I thought it should have been, or I kind of expected it was going to be. And I know from being kind of following the discussion and feedback from the design team, advantage and disadvantage is supposed to be situational, and you either have it or you don't, so it doesn't stack. So I know on one level they didn't want to negate player creativity. You're supposed to do something really creative to give yourself advantage by simply giving everybody spells and class abilities that where advantage was being handed out left and right, because then players would become dependent on those kinds of things as opposed to creative problem solving to gain advantage, or to overcome disadvantage by simply being able to cast a spell or invoke a power. So I think that's probably what they did, but at the same time I do feel like it should be a little more front and center, and I don't recall seeing a lot of guidance or suggestions. There are guidance and suggestions to DMs about how to incorporate that in the game, but like a lot of the DM advice, it's sort of scattered across the player's handbook and the the TMG. I think one thing Fifth Edition missed the mark on was having just a nice, concise, almost bulleted list of okay, DM. Here's some basic things to always keep in mind, to keep as a checklist, either behind your DM screen or in the back of your head, that you're always kind of going through from encounter to encounter to make sure that you've fully got all the aspects of the game engaged and available, and it comes up time and time again so that everybody remembers about it. Inspiration's another one that I think they dropped the ball on, really integrating well into the game. But that said, I appreciate the calls and the reminder about that. And Jason has one other thing to say. Here we go.
Hey, BJ, so I did enjoy your week 2 show after listening to it. It's interesting. I wonder what it says about us psychologically, but, I also talked about, as far as the setting goes, how dangerous most of the settings were and, looking for a safe setting to be in. So I think that's kind of curious. I also, although I'm not going to try to sing because I can't match Jules' voice, I also like how you opened the episode with the whole friendship is magic, RPGs or friendship and magic kind of thing. So very cool. And I will talk to you later.
Jason, I think it comes down to the fact that we're getting older. We want a warm place to lay down and go to sleep, and not have to run out the door and tell the kobolds to get off the lawn. And that is interesting that we both said, well, these are fun games to play in, but if I had to live in one of these places, I'm not living in a dangerous place. I want someplace safe and secure. I think as you get older and wiser, you realize what's practical, and even among the fantastic. But thanks for the call, and you know what? Maybe the magic is the friends we've made along the way. Okay, it's week 3 of RPG a Day for August 2022. Let's see what we have for our prompts for this week. I know I'm once again a couple days late getting this out. August 14th, Suggestion Sunday. Roll D8 plus 1 and tag that many friends and suggest a new RPG to play. I can't tag anybody in a podcast. I'm not even sure if all the people I would tag are going to hear this. So, but I will say an RPG I would like to play fairly soon with some friends is Coyote and Crow. I think I've mentioned Coyote and Crow before. It is a fairly new role-playing game. It is set in an alternative timeline. It's the future, but it's an alternative future from what we have, because it's set in a world that presupposes that a second ice age occurs right before the age of exploration, and so the Western Hemisphere is never colonized. And what would it look like if the people of the Americas were able to advance and discover math and science and technology on their own, and deal with it from their own religious and spiritual and cultural worldviews. And so it's a science fantasy. There's still some magic and fantasy elements in there, but it's also sci-fi. And so it's looking at an advanced, I hate to use that word advanced when I'm talking about indigenous cultures, but it's looking at a futuristic, technologically advanced civilization, or group of civilizations in North America, as they might have developed on their own without outside influence. And so I'm really looking forward to playing that. I've been slowly absorbing the book. It's a pretty big source book. So that's what I'm looking forward to. And so I'll have to roll a die when I get done here and figure out who I want to get in on the ground floor of that. Although I think I already know some of the people that I have a handful of friends that have been also really eager to play it. So that's the one I would like to play for the Suggestion Sunday. Let's see. For the 15th of August, who would you like to game master for you? Pretty much any of my friends I game with, I'd enjoy having them be a game master and playing their games. And we do switch off from time to time. So if you know me through gaming, I'd probably be happy to play in a game that you're running. If I think of like, I don't know, people who are more, I don't know, professional dungeon masters, or they're more in the gaming scene in terms of content creation and things like that. I think the two people that come to mind, the first one is Jim Davis, who is the host of WebDM. They have a YouTube channel and they do some podcasts for their patrons. But I would really like to play in a game. I've never met Jim, but he seems like a really cool guy. He's from not too far from my neck of the woods. I'm in Oklahoma. He's from Texas. So, but I just, from everything I've seen from his videos and listening to his podcast, I think I would enjoy the style of game he runs. So that would be that. And then if we're going to get maybe one notch higher into the celebrity D&D level, B. Dave Walters, who runs a lot of things for D&D, is part of their public play tests and demonstrations and stuff. You'll see him right now. He's running a Spelljammer game in the lead up to the release of Spelljammer for 5e. He's run a game, I think, for the cast of Stranger Things before, but he seems like a fun DM. He does a really good job of being very engaging and keeping the game running at a good pace, and he makes it a lot of fun. So I think those are two of the people I would like to play. You know, I entered a charity. I can't remember who did it, where you donated and you got a chance to win to play a game run by Joe Manganiello, and I think I would have enjoyed that as well. But man, I would just like to get in on one of his basement games and play with all the other celebrities he has in there. I'd probably wouldn't be able to play. I'd probably just be asking for autographs because he has a lot of. He's got David Cross, Tom Morello, the two Ds, the guys that developed, and produced Game of Thrones for television, The Big Show. He's got a lot of, celebrity nerds in his game, so that would be fun. But no, I think B. Dave Walters and Jim Davis would be the people, my go-to people for who I'd like to play with in a game. All right, what's the next prompt? And then the 16th. What would be your perfect game? Man, that is a hard one. I don't know how to even go about answering that question. What would be your perfect game? Am I reading that right? I think my perfect game is a game where things run relatively smoothly, and so you don't even notice the passage of time. You suddenly realize you've been playing for an hour and a half, and it doesn't seem like that much time has passed because you can clearly remember everything that's happened from the time the game started. Every encounter, every little story bit, it's smooth and it's interesting, and the game flows, and everybody's engaged and kind of in the flow of things. I think that would be my perfect kind of game. The setting and the system, I don't think matter as much as that. With everybody kind of just being on the same page and everything's running smoothly. Let's see, August 17th, past, present, or future. When is your favorite game set? What does fantasy count as the past? If you're talking about like the worlds we typically play Dungeons and Dragons in, I guess that's a mythical or a fantastic past, because it is generally something of it's medieval with quite a few anachronisms, but it's still kind of medieval fantasy. That's what I've played the most. I don't know if it's my favorite. There's this famous placard as you enter the Magic Kingdom at Disney. It says, I don't have it in front of me, and I'm not going to look it up, but it says something along the lines of, "Here you leave the world of today and enter the worlds of the past, the future, and fantasy," or something like that. And it's maybe it's the past, the future, and imagination. But it's really cool, and it just seems like, oh wow, if that doesn't describe role-playing games, I don't know what does. But yeah, I guess since I always wind up defaulting to some version of fantasy role playing, probably either, you know, a Fantastic Past, or maybe it's probably a tie really between a Fantastic Past and maybe a modern setting that has more of a superhero comic book type of setting. I think those would be my two favorites. The 18th of August, where is your favorite place to play? My favorite place to play, I think I prefer playing either at my home or someone else's home, just around the kitchen or the dining room table. That's my favorite place to play. I play in public places and in locations, obviously, and the last few years especially a lot online. But if I had to pick one, it's let's sit around the table at somebody's place where everybody feels comfortable and welcome, and it's a very kind of homey environment, and that's where I like to play. And then the 19th, why has your favorite game stayed with you? Why has my favorite game stayed with me? I think D&D has stayed with me because there's always a new story to tell. There's always a new character to create and try to imagine myself inhabiting and taking on the role of it. There's always. I'm always amazed whenever there's an edition change, and you give it about a year, and then people are saying we need a splat book with new classes and new races and new spells, and I'm thinking, even if you play D&D a couple times a week, how that quickly after a new edition comes out have you played every possible combination of race, class, subclass, alignment, and selection of kitting yourself out with different spells and equipment? How have you played through every possible character in the player's handbook that you now need a splat book? Eventually, after a few years, and obviously not everything is going to interest everybody in the player's handbook, so not every combination is going to appeal to people. So you can run dry, but I'm always kind of curious about how much do you have to play before you've kind of done everything you can do with just the core set. I mean, there's still people who find infinite ways to create new characters with BX, where you've got 6 possible basic character types, but through interacting with the plot and the story and the adventure and exploring different personalities and motivations, you still have a lot of fun that way. So it's always interesting to me that but that's why D&D has stuck with me, because you can get a lot of mileage out of what's in there. And then for the 20th, the last prompt here, what do we got? How long do your games last? My games usually last about 3.5 hours, I would say. 2.5 to 3.5 hours. Most evenings I try to play. If I'm playing on a weeknight, I'll usually schedule it from 7 to 10. If it's on a Friday or Saturday night, usually 7 to 11, 11:30, but almost inevitably on Saturday and Friday nights we start late. People have stuff they're doing, and so it usually winds up starting around 7:30, 7:45. The Saturday morning game I've been running and playing in. We start about 8 o'clock in the morning. Actually 8:20, and then we go till around 11, 11:30. So I would say 3 hours, give or take 20 or 30 minutes is the average for the games that I play in. And I think that's a good time. You play for an hour, hour and a half, you take a break, you come back, you play for an hour, hour and a half, and then that gives enough time for a lot to get done and people to engage, but for there to be here and there little side conversations, because it's also a social activity where friends get to talk about what's happened in the week or two since we last talked to each other, and things like that. So, but that's about how long my games last. Okay, that is all. Those are all the prompts for week 3. I want to thank everybody for listening. I also want to thank Anthony and Jason for their calls. Be sure and check out the Casting Shadows podcast for Anthony and the Nerds RPG Variety Cast for Jason. Jason also mentioned in the little reference to My Little Pony, Jules from NZ, who is also a podcaster here on Anchor. It's for those of you not from, those of you who are in North America, NZ means NZ, so it's Jules from NZ if you want to Google it. She's from New Zealand. And actually check out this week's episode of For Cerebrivore that will be out on Friday, where Jules actually joins our kind of regular panel, and we have some discussions about alignment. So that'll be fun. That should come out sometime early Friday. So be looking for that episode of Cerebrivore as well. All right. Well, I'm done here, so I'll be back with another episode sooner or later. At least I'll be back next week to finish out RPG a day a month. Actually, I think we've got 2 more. Because of the way the calendar falls, we'll have 2 more episodes for RPG a day. Anyway, wherever you're out there, take care of yourself. I'll be back later. Thanks for listening to the Arcane Alienist podcast. The music you're hearing is Come and Get It by Scott Holmes Music. The cover art I use for the episodes is by Dave Bone. Be sure and check out his website, ironseer.com, for a lot of other great gaming-related content. You can always leave me a voice message through the Anchor app or at the Anchor website, or you can email me at arcane.alienist@gmail.com. Once again, I appreciate you listening. Thanks so much.